The origin of racial stereotypes in animation. The roots of racial stereotypes in animation can be traced back to minstrel shows, a form of entertainment that became popular in the 19th century. White performers wore blackface and exaggerated features like thick lips, bulging eyes, and broken English to create degrading caricatures of black people. These minstrel performances laid the foundation for black representation in early animation. These are not just cartoons. These are echoes of a painful past, images designed to degrade, humiliate, and dehumanize an entire nation of people. The history of American animation is deeply intertwined with the history of racism in entertainment. As I mentioned, blackface minstrel shows to classic Looney Tunes. Early cartoons weren't just for laughs, they reinforced dangerous stereotypes that shaped public perception of black people for generations. In this video, we'll break down how early animation borrowed from minstrel shows, the worst examples of racial stereotypes in cartoons, the backlash, and how these images still affect the media today. And also, you will understand as to what the scriptures say in Deuteronomy when it mentions that the Israelites would be a byword and a reproach. Animation was how the Gentiles were able to convey this. When animation took off in the early 20th century, animators didn't create original black characters, they copied them straight from minstrel shows. And some of the most beloved animation studios, Disney, Warner Brothers, and MGM, produced cartoons filled with racist caricatures. Let's break down some of the most infamous examples. Bosco, the Talk Ink Kid from 1929. The first black cartoon character show a clip of Bosco speaking in a stereotypical Stephen Fetchit voice. Bosco, Warner Brothers' first cartoon character, was directly based on minstrel tropes. He spoke in a dialect and performed exaggerated clownish acts.
Well, here I is, and I sure feel good. Oh, you feel good, do you? Yeah, I was just out of the pen. Oh.
Mickey's Melodrama, 1933. Mickey in blackface show Mickey Mouse in blackface acting out Uncle Tom's Cabin. Yes, even Mickey Mouse wore blackface, and this 1933 cartoon features Mickey performing in a minstrel show, proving that even wholesome Disney wasn't innocent. Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs, 1943. The worst of the worst show Mammy character, exaggerated lips, perhaps the most famous racist cartoon ever made. Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs is a violent, hypersexualized, jazz-infused mockery of black culture. Scrub Me Mama with a Boogie Beat, 1941. The Lazy Black Town shows clips of the all-black town where nobody works until a white woman arrives. This cartoon portrays black people as lazy, doing nothing until a white woman arrives to civilize them. The impact of these cartoons. These images weren't just jokes, they reinforced real-world racism and the distortion of the perception of the Negro. During segregation, these stereotypes justified why black people were seen as second-class citizens. When children watched these cartoons, they absorbed these images. Black people were buffoons and unworthy of respect. The same imagery was used in advertisements, branding, and even government propaganda. The controversy and censorship of racist cartoons. In the 1960s, civil rights activism led to networks pulling some of these cartoons off the air. In 1968, Warner Brothers created the censored 11A, a list of cartoons deemed too racist for television. In 1968, the censored 11 was established by Warner Brothers. Due to the racist content, a list of cartoons were deemed too offensive for television airing. These cartoons were produced during a time when racial stereotypes were embedded in American entertainment, and they featured exaggerated depictions of black people as well as insensitive portrayals of other minority groups. In this breakdown, we will review the censored 11 cartoons. I will provide commentary on their controversial elements and analyze how they reflect the racial dynamics of their time. Hitting the Trail for Hallelujah Land, 1929. This cartoon follows a black character who sets out for the mythical land of Hallelujah Land, where life is filled with exaggerated representations of joy and laziness. The main character sings in a minstrel-style voice and interacts with other stereotypical black characters. The characters speak in exaggerated dialects embodying the stereotype that portrays black people as carefree and unintelligent. The animation uses visual tropes from blackface minstrel shows, reinforcing the idea that black people were naturally jolly but also simple-minded. The portrayal of Hallelujah Land as a utopia for lazy black people suggests that their contentment lies in their subjugation and lack of ambition. This cartoon perpetuates harmful racial stereotypes, portraying black people as carefree, unintelligent, and docile. The entire concept hinges on racist tropes that are offensive even by the standards of the time. Sunday, Go to Meeting Time, 1936. This cartoon follows a group of black characters heading to church on a Sunday. How ironic, right? The animation features musical numbers and comical antics, but the characters are exaggeratedly depicted with large eyes and lips, adhering to the minstrel tradition. The characters in this short are presented with visual features that evoke stereotypes, small, childlike, and mischievous, often used in minstrel shows. The narrative portrays black churchgoers as overly emotional and dependent on religious salvation, a common portrayal in racist media meant to show black people as happy in their suffering. While the church has often been depicted as a place of solace for marginalized people, though we know that not to be true, especially considering the fact that black people were introduced to Christianity by our oppressors, this depiction reduces black spirituality to mere caricature, reinforcing stereotypes of religious fervor being associated with lack of education or sophistication. The Isle of Pingo Pongo, 1938. This cartoon follows an African tribe depicted as primitive and savage. The tribe members are shown performing a ritualistic dance and are portrayed with large lips, bulging eyes, and wide smiles. The characters are shown as primitive and uncivilized, a common theme in early American cartoons that reflects the racist beliefs of colonialism and sour cream supremacy. The tribe is depicted as joyful yet ignorant, living in a world of simple pleasures and savage rituals, which is a direct reflection of the stereotype that black people were uncivilized. The cartoon trivializes and distorts the culture of African people, promoting racist ideologies about black people being savages and incapable of cultural sophistication. And you can see here, when you look at these cartoons, they have played such a large role in how Negroes are looked at today. All This in Rabbit Stew, 1941. In this cartoon, Bugs Bunny encounters a black hunter who is portrayed as a bumbling fool who cannot catch him. The hunter speaks in a heavy, exaggerated dialect and displays low intelligence and physical incompetence. The character is a direct embodiment of the stereotype, speaking in an exaggerated, broken dialect and failing at everything he tries. Bugs Bunny the hero is presented as clever and superior to the black hunter, a typical theme of racial superiority in early cartoons. The physical comedy is based on the hunter's incompetence, a trope that emphasizes that Negroes perceived inferiority in terms of intelligence and ability. The cartoon was pulled from circulation because of its overtly racist portrayal of a black character, depicting him as unintelligent and bumbling, reinforcing harmful stereotypes that continue to perpetuate racial inequalities. Jungle Jitters, 1938. In this cartoon, a group of African tribesmen are depicted as crude, uncivilized, and savagely dancing around an idol. Their faces are exaggeratedly large and grotesque, with oversized lips and wide eyes, reinforcing the savage stereotype. The tribesmen are depicted as primitive and animalistic, their actions and appearances evoking the idea of black people being closer to nature than to civilization. The depiction of African cultures as ignorant and ritualistic reinforces the belief that black people were savage and incapable of higher intellectual or cultural pursuits. This cartoon reduces African people to nothing more than caricatures and exaggerates their features to an offensive degree, emphasizing racism under the guise of comedy and entertainment. Clean Pastures, 1937. Set in a fantasy world, this cartoon features a character named Sambo, who is shown as a lazy, carefree black man. The narrative revolves around a comedic journey through a dreamscape where black stereotypes are amplified with large lips and exaggerated dialects. The character of Sambo is a direct reference to the Sambo stereotype, a docile, subservient black man who is content with his place in the world. The visuals and behavior of Sambo in this cartoon reinforce the stereotype of black people as passive and content with the status quo, irrespective of social injustices. The cartoon was considered offensive because of its reliance on the Sambo stereotype, a portrayal that undermined the humanity of black individuals and reinforced notions of racial hierarchy. Porky in Wacky Land, 1938. In this cartoon, Porky Pig visits a strange and nonsensical land where he encounters characters with bizarre and distorted features. One of these characters is a black character whose exaggerated lips and eyes are used for comedic effect. The exaggerated features of the black character are meant to invoke laughter, but at the expense of the dignity of Negroes, presenting them as less human and more comical. The cartoon uses the minstrel show style of humor, reducing a complex racial identity to a grotesque stereotype for cheap laughs. The racial caricature and reduction of black people to a punchline led to its removal from mainstream airwaves, as the portrayal was deemed inappropriate and demeaning to the black community. The Shanty Where Santa Claus Lives, 1931. The film follows a series of Christmas misadventures featuring black characters who are depicted as untrustworthy, lazy, and full of bad habits as they sing and dance in exaggerated performances. The characters are portrayed with exaggerated lips, large eyes, and speak in heavy dialects, all common markers of the racial caricature in early animation. The cartoon associates black people with negative traits like laziness, promiscuity, and reinforcing deeply ingrained social prejudices. Due to its overt racism, which portrayed black people in an entirely negative and degrading light, the cartoon was deemed offensive and was eventually removed from rotation. Scrub Me Mama with a Boogie Beat, 1941. The Lazy Black Town shows clips of the all-black town where nobody works until a white woman arrives. This cartoon portrays black people as lazy, doing nothing until a white woman arrives to civilize them. These images weren't just jokes, they reinforced real-world racism and the distortion of the perception of the Negro. Early animation in the United States, particularly during the first half of the 20th century, was deeply intertwined with racial prejudice. Through the lens of entertainment, cartoons played a pivotal role in shaping societal attitudes, often reinforcing stereotypes that have a lasting impact on the Black community. The Censored 11, a group of cartoons banned from television due to their overt racism, serves as a powerful reminder of the media's role in perpetuating racist stereotypes. These cartoons, ranging from the 1920s to 1940s, feature exaggerated, grotesque caricatures of Black people and other marginalized groups. These depictions relied heavily on the use of racial stereotypes, many of which were deeply rooted in the history of colonialism and slavery. These early animated films were made during a time when racial segregation was legal and white supremacy was institutionalized in many areas of American life. As such, these cartoons reflect the racial attitudes of their time and provide a disturbing glimpse into how entertainment served to validate the normalized bigotry and how the Israelites, scattered to America and many of these Western countries all around the world, the Yahudim, have become the byword. The racial stereotypes that are portrayed in these cartoons are not merely incidental. They are deeply woven into the fabric of the animation itself. For instance, the depiction of African Americans as joyful, carefree, and content in their subjugation was a common theme in early animation. The impact of these early cartoons cannot be overstated. While many of the Censored 11 were banned from mainstream media distribution, their influence extended far beyond their original release. These cartoons were part of a broader cultural framework that continuously reinforced negative stereotypes about Negroes for generations of viewers, especially children. These films shaped their understanding of race, creating a false narrative about the inherent inferiority of so-called Black people. The racial characters found in the Censored 11 not only degraded the groups they portray, but also perpetuated a broader social structure of inequality. The portrayal of Black people as docile, happy slaves or simpletons, for instance, served to justify segregation and the continued exploitation of Black labor. It further perpetuated the notion that so-called Black people were incapable of autonomy or intellectual advancement, a dangerous and widely held belief that had real-world consequences and is still held very much to today. Additionally, these depictions reinforce these ideas about white supremacy by casting white characters, particularly those in positions of power, as clever, heroic, and superior. These cartoons painted a one-dimensional view of the world that upheld racial hierarchies. The stereotype of the lazy Black man or the savage was used to justify the oppression of so-called Black people, framing them as inferior and unworthy of equality. The Censored 11 are a stark reminder of how deeply entrenched racism was in American society and how it has perpetuated through mainstream entertainment. These cartoons may have been created as a form of entertainment, but they were also powerful tools that shaped racial attitudes for generations. By examining the Censored 11 in detail, we gain insight into the cultural and social forces that allowed these harmful stereotypes to thrive. However, as we look back on these works, it is important to use this knowledge not only to criticize the past, but also to take responsibility for the media we create today. We must ensure that the mistakes of early animation, stereotyping, dehumanization, and the normalization of racist ideologies are not repeated by embracing more nuanced, respectful, and diverse representations in media. We can begin to heal the wounds caused by the historical portrayals and create a future where Negroes are no longer seen as inhumane and uncivilized and savage. Highly unlikely, considering the times in which we're living and how certain political groups are only helping to substantiate these stereotypes. Ultimately, the Censored 11 offer more than just a look at a regrettable chapter in animation history, but they present an opportunity for growth, dialogue, and change, encouraging us to critically examine how far we've come and how much further we still need to go in dismantling the legacy of racism that is built into the blood of American society as well as other Western societies. Thankfully, Black representation in animation has evolved. Today, we have characters like Huey Freeman, Static Shock, and Miles Morales. Black characters with depth, intelligence, and heroism. Black animators and writers are finally reclaiming their image, telling our own stories, and breaking the stereotypes of the past. These early cartoons remind us of how deeply racism is embedded in American entertainment. While we can't erase the past, we can learn from it and demand better representation moving forward. This has been Yexer. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and let's keep this conversation going. Shalom.
The truth about whitewashing images.
There's no question that there's a direct relationship between images and self-esteem. And it goes all the way back to Tarzan, to Superman, to Rambo, to Batman, to even painting the image of Jesus Christ as white. I mean, you can't separate racism from anything. So it's not unlikely then that you have Pope Julius commissioning Michelangelo in 1505 to paint Jesus Christ white. Images control self-esteem. Abraham Lincoln found out very early, when you have 300 slaves on a plantation and one master, it takes a lot of work. Why don't you let them go? But don't teach them who they are. Control their history. Control their images. Then you won't have to watch them. Whoever controls the mind will also control the body.
Let's talk about